Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great start to your day. Let's talk about our new eyeshadow palette. So it's been a little while since I have gone ham on eyeshadow. In fact, I think my last eyeshadow palette purchase was another Natasha Denona. It was her My Dream palette, which I really have enjoyed playing around with. I did grab all of my Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes just so you can see what I've purchased from her in the past that I really enjoy. I have the mini Zendo, which is great if you are just wanting to try some Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes. She has several of these. If the Zendo doesn't speak to you, there are others. So the retro palette is, this one's so pretty. The Glam palette, that's a really beautiful one. Obviously the My Dream palette, and then I started with the Leela. So I have loved Natasha's eyeshadow formulation for quite some time. I find it to be quite blendable, easy to work with. It gives me just a really great color payoff and it stays put all day. Now, I personally do have to use an eye primer because I have very oily eyelids. I can't tell you what these shadows apply like outside of an eye primer. I've never done it. I even wear eye primer on days where I'm not wearing makeup. That's how oily my eyelids are. I know, gross. It's my thing. My whole face is oily. Anyway, the I Need a Nude palette, as soon as I saw this released at Sephora, I went ahead and ordered it. In fact, I ordered it in advance of its release because I got an email. I'm Rouge at Sephora, and so sometimes they will release things for Rouge members first. So I placed the order, and as soon as I got it, I started playing with it, and I love this palette, you guys. It's so beautiful. I did film just a quick tutorial on this exact eye look here. I filmed that yesterday. I will pop it into the middle of the video here. So if you're wondering, you know, why there's a different outfit, it was filmed on a different day, but it is this exact eyeshadow look here. So anyway, let's take a look. Ooh, it's so pretty. This is definitely a color story that I personally gravitate towards. With my coloring and my naturally gray hair, I really think that neutral or more cool tone shadows look the best on me. I certainly wear warm colors from time to time, but for me personally, just the look that I like best on myself, it's more of like a neutral cool type look, right? And this particular palette has all of that in one. Could I have curated this with the, 20 other eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection? Probably. I'm sure I have all of these shades in one palette or another, but am I going to look through all of them and go through all that work? Nope, not me. I don't have time for that, nor am I really inclined to do something like that. But if you're creative, you can definitely probably dupe this, especially if you have a lot of cool tone shadows with what you already have in your collection. But for me, this particular palette was a must-have, and I'm so glad that I have it. Retails for $69, so it's a bit of a splurge, but since I've splurged on her palettes in the past, I knew that they were worth it for me. Like I said, it does retail for $69. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is currently sold out at Sephora, but I will link it where it's still available in the description box down below. Sephora does have the really nice swatches if you're interested in those on the website there. And it looks like this palette works quite well with a wide range of skin tones from what I can see. So in here you have her matte, metallic, sparkling foiled, and brand new wet effect formulas. And man, let me just tell you, this thing is 100% thumbs up for me. I've been playing with this now for probably just about a week, and I love it. I haven't played too much with the shimmer shades, but a number of the mattes. And I can tell you that this is one that I'm going to be reaching for all fall and all winter long. This is so pretty, you guys. And I think that while a lot of these shades are not super, like, it's not like they're exotic, right? Like, there's nothing in here that is earth-shattering or new by any stretch of the imagination. but I think it's the way that she curated this and the different formulations and just the overall quality of the palette that makes it 100% worth it in my book. I just love this thing. I really do. Please let me know down below if you picked it up or if you're planning on picking it up, or even let me know why you're skipping it. It might be that this color story doesn't speak to you, or it might be that, you know, you have dupes in your collection. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. But for me, this one is so fun and it's just really pretty, and it has allowed me to get very easy, everyday, polished eye looks that I really don't have to work very hard at. I really truly find her formulation to be pigmented, blendable. The color payoff is just stunning. It stays put all day. Again, that with the caveat of I am putting it on over a primer. But even with a primer, certain eyeshadow formulations fade a little bit faster than others, right? Like this one is vibrant from the beginning of the day when I apply it to the end of the day when I go to take my makeup off. I'm a really big fan of this one, and I don't know how she could outdo herself again, because this to me now is like the perfect Natasha Denona palette. I really thought that the like glam palette was gonna be like the end all for me, but honestly, now that I see this one, I think this one has taken kind of top dog there. One thing I want to mention is that you see that Natasha Denona has these little holes in the back of all of her palettes. So what's great about that is that if you want to interchange some of these shadows, say you want to take a couple out of the glam palette and stick them in here, maybe you don't need all of these shimmers in one palette if you're going traveling or something. It's so easy to just grab like a little pin or something and pop them out. They're magnetic. Now, Natasha, it does list the names of the eyeshadows on the palette here, so you won't have the right name for whatever color you're applying, but I do like the versatility of being able to switch the shadows like in and out of the different shadows, out of the different palettes like this. I think that that is kind of a good feature to be able to do that. The only palette that I have where I can't do that is the Lila palette, but this is like a completely different construction, and it's definitely one of like her older palettes at this point. But all of the new ones have, you know, the little holes on the back where you can interchange everything. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial, and we'll wrap it up after that. And yeah. Enjoy. Alrighty, so we are going to get this look over here on this eye, and we're gonna just dive right in. So I've got my palette here. I need to move my mirror, and yeah, I've never done a tutorial using the zoom on my camera. I don't know how this is gonna go. Just experiment with me today, okay? All right, so we have the palette right here. I'm going to go into the shade Fair, which is this light one right here. Just gonna put a little bit of that onto my brush here. And I am putting that over the entire eye area. The reason that I do that is because I do have on an eye primer. Today is the Veil Eye Primer from Hourglass. Fabulous. Because I have extremely oily eyelids, I have to wear an eye primer. Otherwise, there is no point in me using eyeshadow at all. It's just gonna disappear. And yeah, I don't know. I find that for me, an eye primer is a must, even on the days where I'm not wearing makeup, because that oil production on my eyelids just is really, really frustrating. The oil can sometimes make my eyes sting. Just putting that little bit of primer on with just a touch of powder over top. On days where I'm not wearing makeup, I just even use like a finishing powder just to like set it. And then I'm good to go, and I don't deal with that oil running into my eyes and stinging my eyes. I know that sounds disgusting, but I just produce a lot of oil on my face, and while I would love for that to slow down, I don't know that there's any hope for that in my future. I'm gonna be 45 in November and still as oily as a teenage boy. All right, next we're going to go into the shade Tender, which is right here. Nope, that's not tender, sorry. This one right up here, that's tender. I'm just using a fluffy brush. This one's from Zoeva. What's this called? The 227 Luxe Soft Definer. You can find Zoeva brushes at, what is it, Ulta. All right, so I'm gonna take a little bit of that onto this fluffy brush, and I'm gonna show you guys what I do. I haven't done like an eyeshadow tutorial in a while, so just when you hear this noise, this is what I'm doing. So I'm just basically tapping the powder into the brush by doing that. So that means that the eyeshadow has now sort of like gone into the bristles instead of just sitting on top of the bristles. What I find really helpful about this is that it doesn't give you that initial splat of color on your eyes that you then have to work extra hard on blending out. Basically, the shadow sort of fluffs up slowly through the bristles as you're working them into the crease, if you're working in the crease area, for example, and it deposits the color just a little bit more evenly and softly versus just like I said, going in with like a big splat of color. So anytime you hear that clanking, that's what I'm doing with this brush. All right, so I'm taking this onto the outer part of my crease here, and I'm just sort of starting to work that in down to the lash line. This is a really pretty neutral crease color. This whole palette is honestly just gorgeous and really easy to work with. But do you see how I'm like able to slowly build that color up instead of like having to work at like blending the color in to begin with? It just gives me a lot more control over the shadow. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, this makes my life so much easier. I should have been doing this the whole time. Anyway, so just keep blending, blending, blending. The eye shape that I have, I think lends itself really well to building up color on the outer part of the eye here. So a little bit past the crease. I like that kind of slightly lifted, almost cat eye effect that gives me. But if you like a more rounded crease look, do whatever works for your eye shape. Just because I'm doing it this way doesn't mean that you need to do it this way. Work with the eye shape that you have. If you have one that's similar to mine, great. I'm gonna go in with the shade Stone next, which is right over here. And again, I'm just gonna put a little bit of that onto my brush, and I'm gonna, once again, tap that into the bristles, and I'm gonna go over slightly above where the previous crease color of Tender was started, and I'm just gonna kind of deepen that area up there, up just a little bit. Blending everything together really nicely. All right, once I get that up there like that, and this I don't know how people do like tutorials in their viewfinder. I don't like that. And then I'm just gonna take this fluffy brush here, which is actually, this is the contour brush from Kevyn Aucoin, but I never really like this for my contour. I have a rather large face and this just was not big enough for me. I'm going to use that to blend everything together really nicely so that I have a beautiful gradient. I'm big on having things look very blended so that they just look very natural and not too like over the top for every day. Fabulous. Okay, then I am going to take a liner brush. This one is also from Zoeva. This is the 322. By the way, the tippity tap was Mr. Alphonse. Came to join me for the tutorial. I'm going to go into the shade Silhouette, this dark brown here. Just going to load some of that onto the brush. And again, I'm doing the tapping because it just helps with not only helping things look a little bit more diffused and to not go on as a splat of color, but this also prevents this from then like completely raining down onto the tops of my cheekbones here. So Bear with me on this. This is a little bit harder for me to do at this angle. I don't normally look this way into the mirror, but I'm trying to stay and focus on camera here. I'm just applying that right along my lash line. Going with a little bit more, just right there. I like to build up the color a little bit thicker towards the outer part of the eye and then really thin that out along the lash line as I go towards my inner corner. I love using powder for liner. Once again, because of my oily skin type, it just is a much, much better fit. Stays put a lot longer. And really press that into the lash line, because next we're gonna try to diffuse this a little bit without completely brushing it away. So then we're gonna go back into that same, with the same crease brush, and we're going to just put a touch, just a tiny touch of that silhouette on here. So just like 1 or 2 bounces. There's barely any of that on the brush. Still doing that tapping. And then we're going to take that into the crease area, but keeping it mostly on the lid. And we're going to use the edge of these bristles here to diffuse that liner and soften it even more. I love a really, really diffused eyeshadow look. I am not a fan of harsh lines, but if you like the harsh lines, leave them. If that's a look that you like, do it. Yeah, I like the way that that diffuses the shadow that I used as liner just a little bit. All right, so now we are to this stage here. Next, I am taking an Esam W21 brush, and I am going into the shade Whisper, which is right here in the palette. It is a beautiful kind of shimmery shade. I'm gonna load some of that onto my brush. You could also use your fingers for this if you want a little bit more intensity, but the technique I'm doing really, I think, lends itself better to a smaller brush like this. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna focus most of this on the inner corner and slowly feather it out towards the outer part of the eye to where it sort of like fades into that darker area out here. So again, deposit most of that onto the lid near the front of your eye, or the inner corner of your eye, I guess I should say. Grab just a little bit more to build up that intensity. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flick off a little bit of this. So there's still a touch on there, but I'm gonna use what's left to start to like really kind of, I guess would the word be feather, but just like ease it into that darker outer crease shade. I don't want my whole lid to be shimmery. That's the idea here. Again, it's that like ombre or almost like gradient type effect that I'm going for. So I just start slowly like tapping what is left on the brush at that point onto the lid as I go towards the outer corner. Just looks really pretty, like it's just a really soft effect. I'm then gonna go back and just deepen that outer corner just a touch. I'm not even adding more product on here. I'm just going over top of the shimmer to help with that gradient effect. Tapping. It just looks so pretty. I don't even know if it's really like coming off on camera, but I just love the way that gradient looks. All right, I am going to take what is left on my liner brush and just line the outer part of my lower lash line. I'm not going all the way in. Again, I'm going for a more lifted look, so not going into the inner corner is gonna help me with that lifted effect. So again, just right underneath the lashes. just a touch of that product. I'm going in about, I would say, not even halfway to the center of my eye here. And then I'm gonna start really like feathering that and just making it very thin. What helps is a clean Q-tip here and just work that underneath that shadow just to give it a nice blended effect and to help with that gradient effect. And that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and put on my mascara. I'll be back to show you guys the finished look and we will wrap it up. So hopefully this was helpful. All right, so different day, same eye look. Let's go ahead and zoom in so that you guys can see it better. Look, sorry about my melasma, it's acting up. So ignore my forehead. But there is the eye look. I really love how these shadows apply. I think they're very easy to work with. I feel like I can get a lot of very pretty and polished look with Natasha Denona shadows because they're just easy to work with from the start, right? Like they have great pigmentation. I never feel like I have to build anything up necessarily. They blend together really nicely. The fallout, especially with tapping the shadow into the brush first, I think makes that blending even easier. But I think on their own, the shadows blend quite well to begin with. Pigmentation is obviously great and it's a really pretty palette. Now, in terms of, do I think that you have to run out and get it? Is it worth the splurge? All that fun jazz. Honestly, I think you're gonna have to like decide that for yourself. Like, I don't wanna like assume to tell anyone that they need anything. Makeup is fun, frivolous, it is not necessary. Could I have curated a very similar palette with all of the eyeshadows that I currently have in my collection? Absolutely, 100%. But to me, I think the ease of like just having everything come in one palette is appealing. Also, I tend to really enjoy playing with makeup, and even if I never actually completely finish this palette, it's worth it for me to pick it up because it's gonna make me happy when I use it, right? Like everything is in one place. I love the color story. I love the quality of the shadows. I love the blendability. I love the fact that they stay put on my eyes all day long. They are vibrant. They're easy to work with, and it's a great palette for someone like me who really gravitates towards these types of shades. So I will say, if you do have colors that are very similar from other palettes and you just don't want to blow the, $69 on this bad boy right now, I don't think you're necessarily missing out. Makeup is supposed to be fun, and I think a lot of us do put pressure on ourselves to like always buy everything that is released, and it's just not doable or realistic for a lot of people. And so I think getting inspiration from palettes like this and looking through what you already have to create similar looks is definitely a good idea. But on the other hand, if you are a makeup lover, if you love Natasha Denona shadows, if you really, like if this speaks to you, I think it's absolutely worth splurging on. If you have the budget, if it's something that you really want, I think it's a great quality palette. I've enjoyed playing with it so far. I will continue to use it throughout the fall and winter months, and I'm having a really great time with it. So for me, this was 100% worth it. But if you already have a ton of eyeshadow, and especially if you think you can curate something very similar on your own, this may not be worth it. But in terms of the quality, the packaging, all that stuff, it definitely gets 2 thumbs up for me. I would repurchase it if it got lost. I do think this is a great one for me to personally have. Let me know your thoughts on this palette, whether you picked it up, if you've had a chance to play with it. Yeah, just let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. You know, my opinion is just one of the many opinions that are out there. To me, I think this is a really great one from Natasha Denona, and it will fit right into my Natasha Denona collection. I'm certainly curious to see what else she can come out with in terms of neutral palettes. She does quite a number of, you know, like fun colors as well. I don't personally go for the fun colors quite as much as maybe some other people do, but you know, that's just kind of the stage of life I'm in. Like I'm kind of past, you know, the louder eye looks. I like neutral, easy, kind of everyday looks more than anything else. But for me, this guy's a winner. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I appreciate you guys being here. Let me know if you have any questions. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Toodaloo.